Yeah.
And here we have also John Raymer. So this is the
Ah,
John Show
Dr.
with
Cobb, so honored to
Yes,
meet you. And Mr. Perkins, glad, really honored to see you too. And who
Thank
was,
you, Chief
and
Phil.
who's this? Huh?
Mr. Perkins was my dad, so I'm just another John.
Okay, got it. Well,
Li-
as I shared with you, I remember reading A Confession of a Hitman, which was very, very, very relevant to what was happening at the time. So it's good. And of course,
John,
yes, go ahead, please.
John Raymer, I copied you the PowerPoint that Chief Phil sent over a few minutes. Phil, do you want to use that at the beginning or is that
No, no.
optional?
However we wanted to do this is fine. Maybe we have a prayer first, someone can give a prayer, and
Yes.
and however we want to unfold it. I'm just looking forward to listening. They say seek
Yeah,
to understand before seeking to be understood. I'm just really would love to see hear uh, Dr. Cobb, any thoughts he might have about I shared, and John as well. And so I'm just here to enjoy this incredible opportunity to have a visit with two people I have very, very high and profound respect for the work you've done, for the years you've contributed, for your courage, by the way, John, to stand up. Well, I'm sure it wasn't easy.
well,
Hmm.
I will say, well, Chief Phil, you do the opening prayer. I'll do this short introduction to you, and then we'll bring in John Cobb and John Raymer.
Otakasha Wakantaga, Creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate, whatever, forgiving one, O ancient of days, O blessed beauty, we call upon your holy power. Our hearts open, knowing that our ancestors are closer than our closest vein. You're always with us every step we make. In Kasha Wakantaka, we just give thanksgiving for all the tribes and nations of the East from where comes the red sunrise, and we call them together in unity and harmony from both the seen and unseen world to come together in unity and harmony at this long promised time of unification of our human family. In Kasha Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes in the South from where comes new life. And we give them respect and honor, invite them to come and join us here today as we need their inspiration to uplift our hearts and minds to planes we've never yet explored. And Takashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes of the nations of the West from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain. They might awaken our heart and mind to the true reality of who we are. Each of us is sovereign, ancient, and perishable, and everlasting. And creator of all good things, we give thanksgiving for all the tribes and nation of the north from where comes the purifying north winds, that they might purify our hearts and minds so nothing remains but your beauty, your kindness, your love, and your wisdom. Takasha Wakantaka, we call upon, ask, and respect all the powers of Father Sky, all those masculine elements that we each have as a human being. We ask, Creator, that those might be balanced in our love and respect for our beloved Mother Earth, who representatives of womankind or the feminine aspects of life, that we might, each one of us as human beings, as sovereignties, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting, learn about and infuse into our life full spectrum of infinite spiritual qualities that have been given to us as a human family. And also we ask prayers for our animal relatives and all life who are suffering at this time as we are from our choices that we are making. May we change those choices and realize that we have together in unity the collective power and love to manifest the highest of all our sacred prophecies across the Americas and around the world. Howlimi chante washtealo, Shukmano meado, Chinupasapa meado, Howlimi chante washte. My names are Shukmano and Chinupasapa, and I stand fully responsible before the Creator for my words and my actions. Howlimi chante washte.
Oh, thank you, Chief Phil.
Thank you.
Hereditary. Chief Phil is an enrolled member of the Ihanktonwan, Dakota, and Chickasaw nations and is internationally recognized leader in human communities, economic development, spiritual unfoldment. I can't think of anything that we couldn't add there as an adjective. And during the last 55 years, Chief Phil has worked with indigenous peoples from the Americas, Micronesia, Southeast Asia, China, India, Hawaii, and Africa. He served 16 years as an associate professor at the Faculty of Education at the University of Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. In 1982, Chief Lane co-founded the Four Worlds International Institute with Indigenous elders and spiritual leaders. He's also chairman of Four Directions International and Compassion Games International. I believe this gathering began over 50 years ago when Chief Phil was blessed with a prophecy that is continuing to unfold, that he's going to share with us the continuing explosion of that day by day in this gathering. I'd like to bring in John B. Cobb Jr., the host, the co-founder of the Living Earth Movement, who at 99 is still cooking and perking along the way. Shonda, if you can help me spotlight John, we'll bring in John Raymer as well, co-founder of the Sign Network and Compassion Games, and the most amazing genius that I know in so many areas, especially community building, brotherhood. I've never met anybody, except I've read about Jesus and a few others, who loved all 8 billion of her brothers and sisters as much as John
Charles,
Raymer.
excuse me,
Yes.
please make John Raymer co-host too. Well,
Yes, certainly. Happy to do that. And he is. Yeah, this has been percolating so quickly and rapidly that we didn't have our planning session. We'll have our planning session for this gathering tomorrow or whenever we actually have enough time to get together. So, John, Cobb, words of welcome from you. Nothing's required, anything is welcome.
Well, I realize I'm quite fortunate to be able to just be in my apartment most of the time and still have contacts with people like you. It's a real treat. And I'm learning how to use it well, but that means I have to learn how to use the computer. And I hope that works well today. I was interested that the chief said he had come to listen to us, and I've come to listen to him. So I'm not sure who's going to do the talking.
Well, that's a good opportunity to bring in John Raymer. He knows a thing or two and just might add something, right?
No, I'm not going to make it better. I'm going to say I came because I love to serve as well. And you, John Cobb, and you, Phil, and John Perkins, and you, Charles, are demonstrative of, frankly, the urgency of the situation. I don't want to do more of the same. But the way we've been thinking has led us here. Let's tell the truth. So, a wise transition, navigating our future with foresight and wisdom is called for more than ever. And I've been so blessed to be with Brother Phil since 2008 and other Indigenous voices that have guided me and opened my eyes to what has been forgotten along the trail. So we're here to remember and awaken and act. You know, having the insight and not acting is as if you didn't have the insight at all. I think it was Lao Tzu who said something like that. So it's not just enough to know that we need to change, but I'm actually determined to create the new patterns that enable that change to manifest. And the beautiful insight of the sacred covenant for me says it all in 5 words. Unite humanity, restore Mother Earth. So I'm here to help, here to serve. I know this, one last thought. To the degree I can give up any need to be right or any need for credit, I'm a lot better to the people around me. So it continues to be my call to get over myself and get on with working together in unprecedented unified action as Brother Phil has said for so many years. So with that said, I'm going to remove myself as a spotlight. And I'm
Well,
here.
wait, just stay there just a minute, because we think the overarching agenda today includes hearing from each other, because we all came here to listen, right? So that's going to be interesting, but also to learn a little bit more about what's coming forth with the 99 days of peace through unity that begins with World Unity Week. John is one of the four major players, contributors, managers, supporters of that initiative. He's also the founder of One World Mighty Network, which is the primary platform that so much wisdom, activity, information is being shared. Chief Phil, I think, is on there 24 hours a day lately, along with
Well,
Area Vicky. I mean,
I want to share this, that when I received John's very, very kind and email message responding to what I'd shared when receiving the invitation, I felt very inspired to it seemed like all my work and understanding, you know, the whole thing we're talking about today, especially the work that we've all been involved in. And so I'm just curious about this. My mentors, his name was Dr. Daniel Jordan and Dr. Don Streets, and Dr. Jordan attended Chicago, University of Chicago, about the same time you did, Dr. Cobb. And that's where he was inspired by Alfred North Whitehead. And I thought maybe you were inspired at the same time. I'm not sure when you encountered his incredible teachings, but I think there's teachings that really, really humanity needs to understand. They need to understand this process view of reality, because it really shares so much of how we're in all those things I shared back. So I'm just curious if you happen to know Dr. Jordan and the things I sent along.
I am, I better say this now, and maybe you can understand and take it into account. I am basically in good health, and I can still think fairly clearly, but I don't remember things. My memory is really gone. So I'll have to say no, but then, if you asked him if he knew me, and he said, "Oh, sure." Well, he would be the one who to trust, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay. Well, I can identify very well with you. You're 17 years ahead of me on the journey, and
yeah.
I'll tell you, I know that well.
I didn't make this point even 2 years ago. It's quite recent that memory has just become a blob. And it's sad. I'm 99. I would have been glad to hold off till I was 100, but it didn't quite work.
Well, you're 19 years my senior. 19 years my senior, and now for myself, it's kind of different. What's happening with me is I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, except I know it was really good because my wife is incredible to cook. But I don't remember in detail things that happened 50 years, 70 years ago, 10 years ago. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So I guess I'm enjoying getting a chance to go back and reminisce and see things in a different manner that I'd seen them before. So certainly understand this aging process. Now I don't know, John Perkins, my gosh, you look like you're as young as you were ever. You must be taking some Amazonian medicine or something. You're looking great, So anyway, just want to make that comment. And now we know that we'll find out in the next world whether you and Dan were collaborators or not. So until that time, we'll just put it in the hands of the creator.
Well, John Perkins, that's a good segue for you to say hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'll be 80 in about 6 months. So, yeah, but I swim laps every day or jog in the woods. So I stay in shape, and I still go into the Amazon often as I'm doing this coming February. So you got to stay in shape to do that. But, I was thinking the other day in response to your, John Cobb, to your comment about memory, I was talking to all of our mutual friend David Corton the other day. We had lunch together, and he was complaining about not remembering things very well. He's 86 and or 87, and I was pointing out, well, but I sometimes think about that, and then I think, well, when I was in high school, I couldn't remember things either. I think sometimes we get a little bit too preoccupied with how our memories decline, and yet they've always, I've never had a good memory for short-term things. I can really remember extremely well interviews I conducted with presidents of countries back in the 70s and things like that. But yeah, what did I have for dinner last night? Yeah, but in any case, it's great to be with you, all of you, and I think we're at this time. I liked what was said earlier by you, John Raymer, uh, about action, and we've just launched we're in the middle of launching a campaign that starts here in Bainbridge Island, off near Seattle, where I live. It's a community of about 25,000 people. Where we're asking people here and other communities around the world to write short stories about what actions will lead us to an ecological civilization by 2040. In other words, about 15 years, 15 and a half years. And the emphasis is keeping the story short, under 2,000 words, hopefully shorter, and make them action-packed, fun to read, but no oughts, shoulds, or you get rid of those words. I hate those words. You ought to do this. You should do this. No, this has to be described. So you're writing from the standpoint, you're out in 2040, where you're living in an ecological civilization. How did you get here? What actions were actually taken? What action can people take? And I think that's so important now. We've all been through the oughts and woulds and shoulds, and we all know those things. And we've been discussing these for many years. So now it's time to really take action. And I would say, and I think, Chief Phil, you can really relate to this. My experience with the people in the Amazon and throughout Latin America recently, and joining forces with North American and other indigenous people, is they're taking action. They're coming together to take action against pipelines and environmental destruction. They're no longer talking about it. Well, they're still talking about it, but more than anything, they're taking actions, uniting to take actions, recognizing there's a common enemy, and our common enemy right now is our concept of what it means to be successful on this planet. Basically destroying it. How do you get successful? Destroy it, So we've got to turn that around and take the actions that'll get us out of that.
Yes. In light of that, when the time comes, it would be good to share this prophecy and how it's unfolding since March 21st, 1971, and the actions that were taken on the very historic day yesterday, when we really move forward with our sacred covenant to unite humanity and restore Mother Earth. And I think the 10 actions that came from that and the incredible support behind them, not just from Indigenous people, but we're one human family. And when we wake up to that reality, we're all Indigenous people in Mother Earth, and that we all have a inherent responsibility to care for ourselves in good health, but also those around us, but for our future generations. Of course, everybody's heard the thing about 7 generations and so forth. But I think this is the time to take action, unprecedented, unified action. Without it, I'll tell you, the challenges we have, reflecting back, John, on your book, right now, we have a collective debt of 313 trillion. That's a few months back. You figure a 5% interest on that a year, 5%. And I ask myself, who in the world do we owe this to? I mean, $313 trillion, and all these things are going up. So I think that's just a side note in terms of the whole circle. I should say it's part of the whole circle of the challenge we face as a human family. And I think it is coming together as we are letting go of any preconceived notions, letting go of any kind of past feelings we might have had between us as human beings, and putting our minds and hearts together. To me, that is the real time now to do so.
Well, I would like you to start, Chief Phil, with the prophecy. Talk about Palenque. We had the PowerPoint with the 10 steps yesterday, but a lot has happened since March that would
Yes.
lead up.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first, I want to say this too. This is a collective effort. I had a real dear mentor of mine. His name was Joseph Chilton Pierce, and he shared with me the theory of dissipative structures many years ago. How do we move from a system? I mean, Ilya Prigogine addressed the issue of how is it in a system of entropy that still things go up. When things are going down, why do they still go up? And of course, this Belgian physicist, Ilya Prigogine, really laid that out. And what it's about really is that when a system is overwhelmed from the energy within it, and it begins to literally hold it, it moves to a new paradigm, of course, which we're doing right now. But of course, that's also includes conflict and confusion. But I believe this new system we're moving to is moving from the triangle to the circle, because when we do a new paradigm, it has to include that which was plus what you're adding. So what happened was, as we know, around the world, there's always been visionaries, there's always been, and I would call them those that had tremendous impact on our, you might say, unfolding global civilization, whose parents created, and I know John's work in process theology, that figures like we know Jesus, Lord Jesus Christ. Now we know the appearance of, and to me, I think this is what we really is interesting, is that the appearance, for instance, of what we know, 3 years sharing maybe a little book that big, and all of a sudden you see cathedrals like Notre Dame, you see the Vatican, I mean the Sistine Chapel, you see all these things. What was it that caused that? Something happens, and I think that all our prophecies now are saying the same thing. So one of the primary prophecies is the prophecy that many people have now heard about, the prophecy of the reunion of the condor and eagle. And it prophesied that a condor and eagle would come together, and from there, that would lead to the unification of the indigenous people of the Americas, and as well, our human family. So that actually occurred and began on March 21st, 1971 in Bolivia. I started in Cochabamba, then in Sucre, where I was living with my beloved wife. I never wanted to leave Bolivia ever. I found my home. It was like my father described the old people down in the Mississippi, down in the Missouri at White Swan, or my mother talked about her family in Oklahoma. But the Creator had another plan, and my wife was brutally raped there, and I had to return back. But when I returned with this prophecy. The challenge was, like as Pete Ketchum said to me when I was sundancing back, the first Sundance in 1980, he said, he said, Takoja, I said, grandson, he said, I'll tell you this, be careful what you pray for, because once you see a vision, the veil opens, you see it. You see what you can become, you see what the people can become, and the thing closes. And then you will not rest until you fulfill what you envisioned and seen has been instilled in your heart. And so, so I returned. Of course, at that time, there was not any really relatives that knew about these prophecies. And of course, prophecies have infinite meaning, just like anything spiritual. Well, what I understood, and when they passed this prophecy to me, was that, first of all, the coming together of the indigenous people of the Americas, well, there's no condors and eagles flying around Central America. They're not flying around the Amazon. Although I was down on the edge of the Amazon in 1972 after my wife was raped and we had to leave Sucre. And so when we began to journey into Guatemala and Panama and other places, we were seeking out, well, what is that? How is it we're going to unite with these relatives in Central America if they don't share the same prophecy? But then the Quetzal emerges. Wow. Then you'll see, even if you go to GPG chat, when you used to have like only 2019, you'll go there and you'll say, well, tell us about the prophecy of the Union Condor and Eagle. Tell us about that. Tell us about the prophecy of the Condor, Quetzal, and Eagle. And you'll tell about it. But then you add Hummingbird. It's not there, although it's beginning to appear now. Because that didn't really occur till 2020, when we went down to Rio +20 and began to really interact with our indigenous relatives. And then, of course, into especially relatives in Guatemala. And I had a chance to travel down with your dear brother, John, down to the Amazon. Oh, my mind is from the Pachamama Alliance, Bill Twist. I had a chance to go down firsthand and see what's happening there. And all of a sudden in 2020, in fact, it was during our Lightning Our Way Together, the hummingbird came in as that symbolic representation of the Amazon. I'm not saying everybody, by the way, all 80 million indigenous people, all of us, everybody has the same perspective. But there's now that came together. Then through these things that happen, synergies or coincidence, what do you want to call it? I don't believe in coincidence. All of a sudden, next thing we know, we're at Palenque, Mexico, with representation of each of those relatives, condor, hummingbird, quetzal, and eagle. We, as was prophesied, had already been working on developing a sacred covenant, we call it, a set of integrative scheme of thought, which, by the way, has been incredibly influenced by Alfred North Whitehead. Because his thinking, his process view of reality or theology, or what do you want to call it, philosophy, is really in synchronization with our worldview. I have to say that. He gave us the capacity to express scientifically what we knew spiritually. And I really appreciate so much that work. So what happened was, sure enough, we came together. We agreed, and by the way, previous to that, we'd had a ceremony where we made peace with Tanshukawiko's pipe, Crazy Horse's pipe, with all the special forces veterans that came together for this big thing from across the U.S. Because this thing of holding, and of course you can see how light and blank I look, although there's more in there, different things in there that look like my earth suit. But it was time, we realized, for unity. And sure enough, we came with love and compassion, because, you know, from my perspective, we have to reframe the last 500 years. I believe in a loving, compassionate creator that by the way, that allows us to make choices here. And fitting much into your what I've read, from your whole perspective, Dr. Cobb, about how, you know, really, you know, that our creator is not some kind of a authoritarian thing that pops us on the head, as you would discuss how it was when you were growing up. No. So my belief is this, and this, by the way, I believe we've been part of this, been a part of the divine plan, so to speak, call it that, since the very beginning that has no beginning. I believe we began in one seed. And so I believe the last 500 years has not been a punishment. I don't believe we've been punished despite the genocide we've been through, despite the incredible loss of life. I believe this has been a preparation, spiritual preparation for this very day we're in right now. And each of us is part of that preparation, every one of us. And so after Palenque in March, 17th to 22nd, there was a second prophecy that's key to this. It's called the prophecy of the eighth fire. It's an Anishinaabe prophecy. It goes back and predates Columbus. There were 7 successive prophets that came and shared, they talked about, and then they came to a place in the sixth fire where, of course, it talks about this interaction would happen between other relatives who came from the east. And of course, that was predestined. The world's round. We have tremendous innate curiosity to know. And so we would have come, it's meant to be here. And so, you know, and then you come to the eighth fire. Now the eighth fire, I mean the seventh fire. The seventh fire is where the struggle goes on, and then we have to make a choice. Now we realize at that point, which I think we've realized most certainly, we have a choice here. We can go forward to the future where we're going to truly begin our spiritual maturity as human beings on this planet, or we can go down as far as we choose until we wake up to that reality. And that's what I see. I hope we don't have to do that. But something tells me that we have the capacity, and it's just like this incredible change going on in everything in the world. You know, it's so amazing to me that I followed and studied just how fast we could travel. For thousands of years, we were traveling 20 miles an hour as fast as a horse could go. And all of a sudden, around 1844, 1850, we see a parabolic curve happen. Just like in everything, boom. The speed we travel, the technologies we have. So we're in this time that I believe, like our elders say, change takes place in two ways. Slow, imperceptible change that occurs underneath the earth during the winter. It's still preparing itself. You know, it's like within that cocoon, that butterfly is growing and getting ready to, and then all of a sudden there's the rapid, sudden change, boom. And that's what I believe we're in now. We are in this rapid time of change. We still have a ways to go in the birth canal with some pretty heavy duty contractions coming up. So then in Palenque, it became clear. We lit the eighth fire in Hidalgo, Mexico. We had representation from every part of the human family there, as is promised. So when we consulted our council, we have a council that was elected through a way that's really never not been used. I don't think so recently. It really reflects our way, but it's a nonpartisan, non-political way of electing leadership. So we have a council of 7 women and 6 men, which I think is great to begin balancing things within us to understand more of the divine feminine. So anyway, so then it became clear, and through the consultation with John, consultation with our council, we knew it was time to move forward. And so that's where we really in collaboration with John and others, this covenant came out, right? The sacred covenant. Unite humanity, restore Mother Earth. And I think that we can put within that paradigm of that thought, or that, what do you want to call it, everything is happening in a positive way. So then what happened was we sat at that sacred fire, that eighth fire, and it was a very intense time. We had about 250 relatives come. We had other relatives some people came because they just heard about it. We had other relatives come from Colombia that had other circles going. So the key question came: how do we, first of all, as Indigenous people, come together? How do we, which is our greatest challenge, go beyond disunity? And so from that emerged, which we're now shared in depth, but we have a little slide presentation here. 10 unprecedented unified actions to unite humanity and restore Mother Earth, beginning in the Americas. Now, it was very clear. It was very clear. Thank you so much, Brother John. It was very clear with the elders. They said this: it's very, very disrespectful to go to somebody else's home and tell them what's just, tell them what they should do, tell them how they should live when their own home is corrupt, falling apart, etc. And that's why this initiative is focused here in the Americas, right here. So we can be a model, not a bunch of words, but become a model of what this looks like. So these are the 10 actions based on our spiritual and prophecies for unprecedented unified action of humanity and restore Mother Earth. So first, next one, please. Yeah. First, it begins with an indigenous ally-led global peace movement beginning in the Americas. And we have quite detailed strategies for this, how this unfolds. And again, we're just embryonic. I think, but when we begin to see how many embryos are emerging and get all those embryos together, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have quite a birth. Next one, please. Revitalizing indigenous cultures, return sacred sites to the indigenous people of Mexico. Mexico has by far the largest population of indigenous people in the Americas, and not getting into Southeast Asia, because that's where you have your largest population. They have 25 million indigenous people in Mexico. They've also allied in our partners with 4 million Afro-Mexicanos. The interesting thing about Mexico, only 9% of their entire population has fully European background. The rest are all mestizos. So we have this incredible growing, not only in Mexico, but across the Americas, people awakening to their identities. And to even if they have a great-great-grandmother, they're awakening. But also as our human family are awakening. And we're recognizing that every dimension that our human family is unfolded, including technology, which I believe is part of this whole process, is important. But I just want to say this one last thing. Can you imagine, right now, no place of our holy places are, this is plenty, none of our holy places we have access to. Even here, we have to pay an entry fee. You can only be there for certain hours. Can you imagine, though, thousands of dancers are emerging in Mexico. Can you imagine these sacred sites, Tiwanaku, all of them filled on sacred days on the Mayan calendar or other calendars, Toltecs. And it's just unbelievable, the power and beauty and majesty of these ceremonies. So that to us, returning sacred sites to all indigenous people and sacred items so we can use them again as we did in the past is key, one of the keys to uniting humanity, because it'll provide that spiritual unity. The next is we focused on water. And we have a dear brother, his name is Douglas Tolchin, who is really literally is mapping the whole world. We've now mapped the America, because right now, Mexico is facing incredible freshwater challenges. But the issue that really people have not looked at yet is when Mexico was colonized, they broke it into 33 states of the United States of Mexico. And of course, within those states, they're divided up. And so what's happening is you've got watersheds, you've got bioregions and so forth that are all split up, just same as every single colonial nation state border across the Americas splits up indigenous people all across the border. And so what we're suggesting is we have a whole solution. I'll just put out, but if anybody wants to take a look at it, they can. How do we believe that by returning to and seeing Mexico and its 33 states, instead of looking at that, look deeply within and see this is the way Creator, this is the way the natural world the Creator created. These are the natural watersheds. These are the natural rivers. These are the natural things that we need to understand from a holistic perspective in order to have a collective response. Next one. From this one, we just simply took this on and demonstrated where do we begin? Where do we begin? And that is the Mayan Bioregion Sanctuary is a living model of what is possible from Mexico and beyond. And we have tremendous ground support there because really the awakening happening south of the U.S. border is profound. When you consider that we're living in a population of about 350 million or more people here in what we call Turtle Island, United States and Canada. There's only out of the 80 million indigenous people by UN standards that are in the Americas, we are only 8 million, and in a population of 350 million. So it's been quite a fight to retain our cultures, retain our languages, and so forth. But here in Mexico, they have not. They still have community. So anyway, that's our point of this. We need to have a place to model this, not to talk about it. We've had enough words. Next. Increase freshwater collaboration with the United States, Canada, and Mexico through an indigenous bioregional perspective, a living model of what is possible in Mexico and beyond. The same principles apply. Here is our beautiful Turtle Island together, and we can see that it's certainly not, the Creator certainly did not organize it according to these colonial nation states borders. And so we have all these cross-border issues. So we have to, this is why I think this whole awakening to a human family, we've got to see it that this is collectively something we have to look at together. So all of us can find a way together to ensure that our future generations have clean water, are able to survive in this disintegrating environment and increasing adversarial political partisanship. Next. Increase freshwater collaboration across Abayala through an indigenous bioregion. So it's the same. It's the same. Now, notice the largest bioregion in the entire Americas is the Amazon. Well, you can see where else in the Americas do you have anything to compare with these lungs of our world that are right there. So we see that as in a system, from our perspective as Indigenous people and as human beings. That's why I think that so many people are focused on it. We see this as a one of our key areas, which by the way, I'm glad that John's here so he can get his thoughts. Next. Support. Now here's the one, just I thought I mentioned. Support an Indigenous gathering of the spiritual leaders of Indigenous peoples of the Amazon to define their united vision and action plan for restoring the Amazon. The Sukapai First Nation in the Amazon in Ecuador, close to the Peruvian border, have just been given back the traditional meeting grounds, of the Indigenous people. And there they used to come together, and they would have, their prayers and medicines and so forth and consult. So we're saying, what it would be great, because right now, as I see it, and I say this with great love and respect, because I know how hard these organizations work, but you have all these competing NGOs. I've been to all the galas going on and so forth. You got all this money being generated and so forth and so on. The question comes, is the Amazon in any better condition right now than it was 20 years ago before millions and millions of dollars were poured in there? Now, maybe it might be some places, but I believe development comes from within. I believe that it's time for us, including Indigenous people from outside, to step back and let them have it might take 7 days of consultation. Let our relatives in the Amazon, let them define the vision and the actions needed to take to resolve it. Next. Complete the fourth way digital backbone. So this is something that back in 1975, there were some elders at Sweathouse Lodge, Abe Bernstein, Eddie Belrose and Abe Bernstein. And they were sharing prophecies. And we as a young men had a group of us who were seeking out this wisdom and knowledge. This was after I came back from Bolivia. So we went down and listened to them. Now, these elders, Eddie was the younger, Abe was the older. Abe only spoke Cree. So Abe would translate the younger, so we would know what they were sharing was not something that came from a book or somebody, philosophizing outside our communities. They told us many things, but one thing they told us that particularly puzzled me. They said, someday you young men will see the everywhere spirit made physically manifest on the earth. And when that day comes, you'll be able to look before you and see other members of the human family, other human beings on the other side of Mother Earth and talk to them. They describe in detail the advent of the internet. So I love to play sports, so I never learned to type because my mother always typed for my father. So I thought, well, that's what women do. That how stupid you were. I was. But sure enough, when I went and got a position at the University of Lethbridge in 1980, I encountered a mainframe. Oh, that's it. Although I still type with only one finger, I never learned to type. I knew that this was part of they said we must use this. And sure enough, I didn't do it. I had other people who were working with me do it. until I met Brother John Raymer, who was my mentor. And all of a sudden, for the first time, I sent my first email and all that. So this digital backbone essentially is, and we have all the specs for it technologically and so forth. We have now people have stepped forward and are beginning to build it. Essentially, what it'll do is it's a sovereign network using the best technologies we can. So at an individual level, your identity or your sovereignty is retained. From a family level, it's retained. From a tribal level, it's retained. And it has multi-dimensional utilizations, including a trade, including preservation of the indigenous cultures and so forth. Now, the other part of it, so here we have the digital backbone we're constructing, it's construction now. And so then the thing comes, okay, we know the elders have taught there's certain content we don't want on our digital backbone. We feel like pornography is if people choose to do that, that's great. They have many networks to do that. We don't choose to do that for our children. We choose to have it and be an inspiring place of indigenous wisdom and knowledge, and the best we can find. And by the way, we're not just hung up here in the Americas. Our philosophy is we want to find the light. We don't give a darn what the lampshade looks like. So now the last part just happened. And that is, if you notice, Elon Musk has just been in Bali, and he is really dedicated to, and we happen to have some relatives that I certainly don't know him, that he's dedicated to bringing the internet to, and it was a nice press conference yesterday, internet to indigenous people, or those people who have access. Can you imagine? So what we're seeing is in these isolated villages in the Amazon, where our relatives can't connect, through Starlink, they'll connect to our visual backbone and be able to communicate together in a good way. Because I believe technology, and I know it's more sophisticated than that when we look at AI, but I believe technology is about who morally is using it. I can use it as a hammer to build a beautiful home. I use the hammer to hit somebody in the head. So that's another thing. Now, that's all, by the way, all of these things are detailed in depth in terms of action and so forth. Next. Unite the local, national, international initiative dedicated to uplifting spiritual qualities of the divine feminine. We have a tremendous, my dear cousin, Ejna Fleury, and this incredible circle of women who represent the four directions have come together. And they really, what their focus is that there's thousands of movements or small movements towards uniting women's, for they can gain the collective strength to address this incredible abuse they've been through over the years. And so we want to support that. The coming together of this incredible circle of our divine feminine qualities, which I believe are needed for peace. Certainly our approach with being, it hasn't worked. We're almost the brink of destruction. So that's that one, the last one. So back in 1990, we realized that we needed to really preserve and to also protect our sacred medicines. And so that's when we wrote up in conception of the Global Center for Indigenous Science and Ancestral Wisdom. At the same time, the elder said you have to wait, because at that time, if you notice, there's about 25,000 plants that it's estimated we have within our pharmacology. Western science has only penetrated probably 1,500 of those. And we realized that just like gold and silver and all those things we had that they took away, and they melted them down so they could have coins or money, that we have even a greater treasury in the incredible pharmacology we have here. So now it's interesting to me that after getting as much gold and silver as they could, now it's plant medicines. Now it's having ayahuasca ceremonies, which, by the way, is like a Trojan horse, because that changes consciousness. But if it's used in a good way, the issue we have is that people come in, they take some ayahuasca, the next thing you know, they're shaman. And I think John knows, and been in the community, know how the community takes care of that, because these are really communal medicines. It's good to have many people around to really have that follow-up and things you need. So that is being We have several sites, one with the Sucapai in Ecuador, where they're already doing this, and La Ventana, where all these sisters are at, where we had our gathering the last 2 years, is also now we're bringing our best to bring together the best of both what science and spirituality has given us. And I want to share this last part. Science without spirituality becomes a Frankenstein. At the same time, spirituality becomes, without reason, becomes fanaticism. Now, I would use the word religion if it really people understood it in its original Latin meaning, to bring together, to bind together in unity. But the word religion has been so misused. It's almost been a dirty word for some people. That we use the word spirituality, even though that more, I mean, that's really kind of your personal thing rather than the collective, might say, thing that we see in religion. So that's what we're doing. We have, again, I want to say that this is going to happen, whether or not we decide the time comes for us to go to the other side camp, or we decide, well, I can't put myself into this anymore. It's going to happen one way or the other, because it's something that's happening from someplace way beyond us, beyond this world of time and space, that world beyond names and memorable souls and sounds. That's that part, that mystery, that unknowable part, which is included, by the way, in where we talk about the 4 symbol systems. Mathematics is the core symbol system for understanding everything in this physical world of time and space. Everything can be measured through mathematics. But then we come to ourselves. It's language, the incredible dimensions of language, spoken and unspoken language. But then, how do we mediate experience with the unknown? How is it we connect to the spiritual umbilical cord, that you might say the connection, the arts. And when we combine the arts into our ceremonies, our living ceremonies, we combine those, and we draw down that energy. And then the fourth, which they, by the way, in Eastern model didn't include, we've included, is our dreams. It's the way we mediate experience with ourselves, our own self. Okay, so that's my little. I thank you for your patience. I'm sitting here before Dr. Cobb, as well as Dr. John Perkins, and all of you here, and I'm thinking, my gosh, I feel like I'm trying to get my see if I pass on my master's dissertation or something, with all this brilliance around me. My gosh, the work in environmental. The environment and sharing, my gosh, the work you all done is so, I mean, oh heck, I mean, I couldn't even compare, even I had it with my one finger. I mean, my gosh, all this, and I don't know, David, you may, we haven't met yet, but I'm sure that just being here and being part of this, we all have been gifted in one way or the other. It was time to come together in unprecedented unified action. And I love you, and thank you.
He's quite a speak.
Got a passing grade, Brother Phil. I'm pretty sure, I can't guarantee it, because this is a tough crowd. We have a
Charles, why don't we mention Adriana? Adriana Alvarez is here. She's executive
let's bring her.
of 4 Worlds, Adriana is, and she's also behind the La Ventana initiative and project that you, Brother Phil, were talking about in terms of, there she is.
There she is, yes.
Thank you so much, beloved brothers. It is so beautiful to be circled by all these beautiful men that are really giving their hearts and their everything to bring the change to the world. As Brother Phil speaks so passionate about the divine feminine, it is my honor and privilege to uplift and honor the sacred masculine that is here as leaders of the world, who are really in this pathway of making the change we all want to see. So it is my honor and privilege to be part of this moment, as Brother Phil say, this historic moment where we are uniting to restore Mother Earth with our ancestral knowledge, with the roots of our peoples, embracing our human family, because we are all indigenous to Mother Earth. And we got the confirmation from all the elders, from north to south, from east to west, and the sacred covenant to never forget that we are here to honor Mother Earth, to bring peace, to live in peace and harmony with our Mother Earth and with ourselves in diversity, in that beautiful diversity that Mother Earth provides in one and all of us. So it was, and it has been a very profound pathway walking by Brother Phil and seeing how all these energies from the eagle, the condor, the quetzal, and the hummingbird rising with this spiritual force that really guarantees that we're flourishing in love and harmony for the world. So all we need is just to stand together. We need little opportunities. We saw in Palenque, we presented some local initiatives that Brother Phil and for Worlds International, with all that the people who were so kind to donate and help us to bring all this gathering in Palenque. We were able to share all those donations to some local participation of some organizations, and what they did with so little, it really touched the hearts of so many, talking about our local communities with so little, making such a huge impact, with 250 families growing their own food and looking to find that balance in our communities. So we couldn't be more happy to see that from the Mayan Bayer region, La Ventana, Palenque, and all this work that Brother Phil and so many of us have been doing to gather there since 2019. And this last March 2024 was the confirmation that we are in the pathway to ally with everybody who has an open heart and is ready to go from prayer to action to restore and protect and love and honor Mother Earth as our human family. So thank you. It is my honor. And thank you, you wonderful men who are here to provide these opportunities. Aho.
Oh,
So, thank you, Mr. Adrian.
oh. You know,
So we're in flux a little bit. We have left in our schedule to hear from John Raymer about World Unity Week, One World, and we also need Hamas, Alberta, a group that's been meeting with John at the life economy, circle economy.
please.
That's
So
right.
next depends upon your schedule, John Raymer.
Well, no, I'm here. I don't want to miss an opportunity for others to share. I see John was wanting to.
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe it's John Cobb. I think he's talking to someone else.
Yes,
So,
he has a
yeah, I did add the link to the Sacred Covenant, sacredcovenant.earth. So it's just the beginning to declare oneself there, make that pledge. It then leads to a platform upon which we're encouraging people to actually act consistent with that declaration. So that's what's happening in One World, and that's part of what I think I can share here. So let me share my screen here. So just a second, let me orient everyone what you're looking at here. This is One World. And on the left here, there's this navigation.
They are representatives of the Four Worlds Elders Council, representing over.
All right, I'm going to mute you, Brother Phil. We're hearing more than we want to. So, okay. So here you can always come into One World and see what's going on. There's a one feed, just kind of the latest, greatest. You can control how you see what's happening there. But down below here, in this part of the navigation, there are these different, they're called spaces here. So there's one called World Unity Week, and that's the one that we're preparing for. And if I go here in the news, I could see the latest of what's going on, and there's a lot going on. And if I'm going to bring up this article here to tell everyone, this is the place to go to orient yourself. How you can sign up. Dancing the Dream is the theme. And Awakening Humanity's Sacred Mission. Some of you were with Irvin Laszlo and a team of us that did a symposium in February. That's led to now this coupling of the sacred mission with this sacred covenant to unite humanity and restore Mother Earth. So this is like this convergence that's happening from June 15th through the 22nd. I'll be in New York with Chief Perry for the powwow that's happening there, is coupled with the event in Peace Week in September, and that's where the 99 days comes from. It's actually starting on June 15th to the 21st, which is the International Day of Peace. Those are the 99 days. So down here, we're inviting everyone to be engaged in this act of synergizing humanity for regenerative unity. What does that mean? Well, we want to hear your missions. And that's what I'm going to show you in a second, what's happening in One World, where people are declaring, like Brother Phil talked about, the Indigenous and ally-led global peace movement. So these bullets here are different roles that you could take on during World Unity Week, not just attend, but if you want to present, and in fact, we're encouraging people to come together to synergize and present. They want to lead a mission. They want to be part of a room steward. All these things are defined in more detail inside this form. So if I go outside of here, I'm still in World Unity Week. I go up here to participate. There's a form there where people can sign up to say not only you're going to attend, but how you want to participate. And that's what this is doing, is starting this process. Like I mentioned, missions, your mission, knowing what you're up to. I just clicked and went to a different space on the left. You look here, you'll see amazing initiatives that are happening. There was an update that Brother Phil posted that I helped him with. That's what you see here. A little bit more on what's happening with this Indigenous ally-led global peace movement. That's one of the missions. This is humanity's sacred mission. And each of these mission plans has a statement with some clear objectives here so that we can define what it is, what's the point of the game here. And then really, what are the calls to action? And those calls to action, now this mission came with the Laszlos, Irvin, his son Alexander, many, many others. You can add your voice to this as well, the list here. Now I want to show you one other space inside here. On the left, I'm going to switch to the Global Pledge of Unity. You can make the pledge on the website, or you can come here and learn more. This builds off of what happened in Palenque. And you can go here. If you want to really understand in depth and detail what we're talking about, click here, go to this overview, expand this, and you'll see the left shows you what we call these four really sections here, our foundations, the foundational framework, the core commitments, the strategic approaches, how we're going to do continuous improvement. And each of these gives us your chance to click in and learn more about exactly what we're talking about. We need your input, and we invite your input here. So I want to pause there. I don't want to get lost on the screen, but I want to be your guide and help you. We're in one of these moments. You mentioned AI again, Phil, earlier. It's like the metaphor for me is I'm a musician. It's like all of a sudden we got a new player in the band. And the music that we've been making is going to change. And learning how to harmonize humanity. I mean, how in any good band, you know the different gifts of the players that you're playing with. That's what we need to learn about each other. That's why in One World, we have the ability for people to declare not just their missions, but their purpose statements. Let's get to know each other. Let's connect through our similarity and innovate through our diversity. And this is not a chance. You know, so many people feel alone in trying to do this work. That disunity, that sense of separation, that's what we think we can overcome with our actions. And that's why I'm inviting everyone to reach out. If you want to participate during World Unity Week, during the 99 days, and then Peace Week in September. That's the platform upon which this is emerging.
Well, thank you, John.
Thank you.
And there are a couple of thousand like-minded, like-hearted people already that are a part of well, it's no advertising, no marketing. It's just a love community. Whereas John said you can share a mission, you can be part of any of these things. And this is where it's like Brother Phil produces something and John Perkins responds to my copy in it. And I have to send that over to John Perkins and then copy John Perkins's message in there. So John Perkins, be part of One World. I mean, you've got a lot to share. And this is a beautiful place to share. So thank you.
By the way, one of the things I put in the chat I think is very significant, and that is this covenant we've made with U.S. Special Forces veterans and other veterans across the United States. And literally, I'm so thankful. You'll see Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot, who now is the head of the coalition for all the veterans across the country that are using medicine, using indigenous medicine for healing. And have made a tremendous change. But we came together what they call he explains a 4x4x48 sacred run and staking ceremony where we brought Crazy Horse's pipe. We came with love. And on that sacred pipe, we made peace. And now they're with us. We share the same guy, the whole foundation we share as one. And what really is thrilling to me, and I had a long, long talk with Toshka. By the way, I make everybody relatives, we're all relatives, my nephew. Adam. What's really exciting is now they're going into the mountains and every other place without any medicines. Because I really believe you use a medicine when you're sick. I mean, if you're sick all the time and use medicines all the time, that's not the way we used our medicines. They were communal medicines to help people. So they're going there free. Because I believe we have to become free and severed from anything in this material world, not in the sense that, being a somebody who's like a monk. I'm talking about in terms of being completely free in the creator spirit, to truly be at that place where nothing in this material world will seduce us. Because there's a lot of seduction out there today to our indigenous communities who are made so poor, a little bit of money comes for oil, extraction, whatever. We have to be able to be free of that and also be able to respond in really a wise way, because this system is disintegrating rapidly. Now, I'll tell you, if you've ever been around a wild animal when they're disintegrating, and they're dying, they can be really vicious. And John, you know that better than anybody in your book. I read it. You know what inside they're capable of. I mean, these relatives are really, John calls it weak coal. By the way, I think that I'd really love to hear from you, John. What do you see right now? You were inside the belly of the beast. Where's the belly of the beast? What can we do about the belly of the beast right now? Where is the belly of the beast? Is there really all this kind of stuff going on behind the scenes? Are there really this, whole what they call it, deep state, all that kind of stuff? I'd really love to hear that so we can be informed of what we need to be aware of.
Which John are you addressing?
Oh, to John Perkins. I always call him Dr. Cobb.
John Raymer also. Well, I would be happy to
I'm
talk
sorry.
about
I
that,
understand.
I think
but I'm talking about the hitman.
Yeah.
John Perkins. It's you, John Perkins.
John, I'm sorry. Anyway, John Perkins.
I've got the beast right here with me now. Baby Jaguar here. But I think we're waiting for Tomas, who I know has prepared some things to say. So I would really like to defer to Tomas. I'd be happy to address this maybe another time.
Yes.
But I know we're running out of time. At least I've only got another 15 minutes. So I would like to defer to Tomas, who I know has put together a presentation.
Please.
And Tomas is absolutely brilliant. We meet every couple of weeks on a smaller group, and I love what Tomas has to say. So I'm looking forward to you now. Tomas, take it away, please.
Thank you, Chief Phil, for taking the time for this. I've been looking forward to hearing from you actually for quite a while now. We've been working on this, and I'm very much happy. What I found actually very interesting, was just to start it, was how Alfred Whitehead actually had such a profound impact on you. I too actually got involved in everything here because of my interest in Alfred Whitehead, but mine's a little different. I studied nuclear engineering, and so after I graduated, I was trying to refresh some calculus, and he wrote a very good calculus book, which nobody looks at. And then I looked at that, and then I saw he did, well, he's like a Renaissance man. He had done much more math he did, and I looked at that. And then eventually I saw he did process philosophy. And so then I reached out to Professor Cobb, and that's how I got here. But you got in here a different way, but we're all looking at it in the same, which I find very funny.
Yes.
One thing, so we've been working on like trying to, I guess, come up also like how you're doing a plan and like actionable plan for the betterment of Indigenous in the Americas. I wanted to actually ask you, because we have you here now, was a few questions, because I've been putting this together, and to get your perspective on it would be like extremely valuable. I sent them to our group, and the first one, which we don't have an answer for, was, so from reading up all your work you've done and just throughout your life, it seems like a big goal of yours is essentially Indigenous sovereignty, it seems, right, with the UN, and also this tremendous effort of bringing, right, the North American Indigenous, South American Indigenous, Central American Indigenous together. The first question I had was actually, how will rich and poor tribes affect the unification? How will you incentivize the wealthier tribes to help the poorer ones without making new power struggles?
Yeah, well, that is a real testimony to how far we've gone away from our, I might say, original teachings that were based in reciprocity, were based in caring for those who are less fortunate. In fact, you'll find many stories even of those relatives that came from Europe, of how they were in many cases were cared for, taken care of, because they saw they were hungry. But I believe that even in whether it be big wealthy gaming tribes or whether it be any kind of institution, there's relatives waking up. There are relatives waking up, and we're beginning now to. I'll give you a good example. I'm on my mother's side. I am a member of enrolled member of the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma. Now, I'm also an enrolled member of the Yankton Sioux tribe of South Dakota from my father. And you'll see what the Chickasaws are doing now. It's interesting how the Chickasaws are doing this. Really quite something. We have the Dawes roll, so it means, you're enrolled as the Dawes from that lineage. Anybody from that lineage, I don't care if you have a 16th or whatever you have, you're a member of the Chickasaw Nation. And so they're dynamic. And so they're really coming back culturally and sharing. So I think we have to model it. We have to model it. And I believe as well, just like it's happening everywhere in the world, even within these gaming tribes, it has become a reflection of the mainstream, the mainstream, in most cases, growing disparity between wealth and poverty. So the people themselves are getting upset. The people themselves from within these gaming tribes, they're beginning to, as they gain their healing and so forth, they're beginning to make the change. So it has to become from within. I would focus your efforts on those who are ready to move forward. Here are one of the 16 principles were given by our elders beginning back in 1982 when they told us we had to have a foundation. Guiding principles were based in the natural laws. They said, stand in your strength, spiritual strength. Know that. Like my dad said, always know where you're coming from. Move to the positive alternative you wish to create without giving your energy fighting the negative. So I would say that and I really look forward, Thomas. I feel like this discussion, we just haven't had breakfast yet. We need to continue this discussion. I'm really enjoying it. I think we have, and you, by the way, I had no idea you were even seeing what we're doing, but I'll be happy that we have a lot of information, like a treasury of what we developed when I was a professor at the University of Lethbridge. I mean, and then we had a lot of resources coming in to do the research. And so that's what we're working from now. So I would say, do that. work with those relatives, build your strength with the relatives who want to build the strength. We'll be happy to ally with whatever's going on. I believe we're saying that really, if you get the foundation, I'm sure you have guiding principles. I bet you'll find the 16 guiding principles we're utilizing are the same you're utilizing. So let's get that foundation, come together, and we're open. My TP flap is open 24/7. That's what my dad used to say. So it's open anytime. So please, you can share with him my cell and so forth, email, and I'll be happy to send you some Google Docs. And by the way, anything we're doing is in draft. We're in draft. The universe is in draft. We're always open for further understanding. We don't care about the lampshade. We want the light.
Thank you.
Just share, Brother Phil, that Tomas found you and your amazing accomplishments separate from my working with you, which was pretty fascinating. Tomas, I know you have a couple more questions you want to.
Please.
Is it one that you have a burning desire to complete?
That was the first one. Oh, if we have, I have one more because John Perkins kindly answered some of them. The other one was, this was actually the one I was very curious about. If the tribes gained sovereignty, how will you keep their independence while building a common government or common government, like governance?
Well, I think a good example of what's happening just happened in Haida with our dear brother Guchao, Chief Guchao, who also began having the return of the Queen Charlotte to Haida. They have now just taken almost 99% control back of their lands, and they're utilizing their traditional government. It's working very well, but also we have articulated, I think, the foundations of a whole new way of doing things. Because based in those 16 principles, once we had those developed, it took us, well, we had our first meeting in 1982, where we came together with about 40 elders. Then they said, okay, we're going to give you 4 principles to work with. You got to understand them. Then in 87, in February, we had a gathering of 100 elders across the Americas and the United States. We had one relative come from Alberta. So we really, again, and then back in 2000, it was 2000, let's see, what was it? No, it wasn't then. It was, 1994 and 95, we had a 500 come together for 7 days. And that's when we finished what we call our 16 principles of building a sustainable, harmonious world. So, I believe that first of all, we have to enter into this new world completely free and severed from all what we considered the past and how we did things. We have to come together, and based on these understandings, the natural laws that govern us and the universe, develop from that you might say, theoretical basis. You talk about it in terms of Alfred North Whitehead's work as a theoretical framework. But from that basis, we're doing it. We're actually doing this. We're actually utilizing this. That's how we're uniting, based on this very quiet, because we also know that once we will really understand what our real ultimate purpose is, and that is to build the first digital nation state. And we're doing it. And when we realize we really, it's in infancy, but it will be as sure as the sun rises. Because every step the prophecy promise have happened in this step of uniting together, not only across the Americas here, but beyond, like to Aotearoa. We know, and from the Kontiki expedition, and Thor Heyerdahl, who I had a chance to have some really great visits with, that our relatives did travel, despite what everybody might think, did travel to Hawaii, to the Pacific Islands. And they called us the older brother and us younger brother. And I traced that down clear to Aotearoa. So this network, I call it kind of a spiritual mycelium. It's underlying all this junk that's going on. We're all part of it. Every one of us. Every one, and we have our elder here. We're all part of it. Each one of us are part of this spiritual mycelium that's coming together. It's responding to the destruction that's going on to the very core of our being and our future generations.
Yes, thank you so much, Tandeka. We're getting close, but I'm going to be brave and say Please join us.
Thank you, Chief Phil. I find your words and your presence so very inspiring. You said that genocide, you look upon genocide as spiritual preparedness. If you could say more about that, I would be deeply grateful.
Sure. You know, for so many years, and you know, I had one of my great grandfathers fight against Custer, and so forth. And I'll tell you, I grew up so full of hatred and rage. I mean hatred, because when you're lighter complected, you get it from both sides. And I come from hereditary leadership on both sides of my family. And so on one hand, you know, you're too light, you're not dark enough. And so I was angry. I mean angry. And I tell you what, it helped me in athletics. Helped me in athletics. Boy, I'll tell you, I go to a wrestling match, and before me was General Custer, and I want to hurt him. Football field, I want to hurt people. But you hold that long enough, it'll destroy you. Hatred and anger, and I had it. And boy, I'll tell you, it took me down the tube. Alcohol, drugs, you know, desire for suicide, until I had this spiritual experience in 1967. So here's what I'm saying, is that we know we tried the best we could. In some cases, yes, we went off the spiritual path. But I don't believe, I mean, I think it's our choices, but I truly don't believe the Creator, this unknowable mystery that created all this incredible complexity and the way it's, the reciprocity of it, the mineral, the plant, the animal, the human, how they're intimately related and really one, and how we contain all those different parts, the ontological parts of creation and all their dimension, from the cohesion of the mineral people, the growth of the plant people, since the animal people, and of course ourselves with Nauri, our soul. And so what I'm realizing is as tough as it is, we've gone through, you know, here we are, because I really don't know that experience, a brief experience my relatives have. I do know there's no death, there's a change of worlds. I do know they're close to my closest vein, including your relatives. And this bridge now we need to make, which we're doing, is to join together as relatives from Africa and the relatives of the indigenous people of here, and really join forces in a good way, in a good way. So I guess, you know, I had to leave that behind, because it was really detrimental to me, because I kept holding on, you know, oh, you know, then I realized, just a minute here, this is our day. And all the things I went through today is giving me a love and a compassion, because I went through. When you realize, you know, you better be careful before you judge somebody else's, because we don't know what our own end is going to be. So I'd say, sister, that we have been born, those ancestors, yes, they did. We learned a lot. All those experiences, the genocide, all that, but we've learned about healing. We've learned about the fact we call the fourth way. We know that assimilation is not the one, what we call one way. It's not the way to go. I mean, you can put all your suits and ties on and do all that stuff to the mainstream system, and the mainstream system doesn't care for you. Well, it doesn't make any difference. He'll just use you. Or we can have resignation. We can give up. Give up. We see that happening a lot. Or give up, or get involved in underground kind of stuff, drugs and so forth and so on, like that. We do to try to survive. Or we can fight. We can fight. Well, I will know my own ancestors, what happened to them when we fought the Little Bighorn. After that, our buffalo went from, they had the surrender or starve, where they made it, they just killed the buffalo off. But we endured. Why? Because of our holding on to those natural laws, the teachings of our white buffalo cattlemen, who, by the way, those same teachings came in Jesus, brought those same teachings from my perspective, or Moses, or Abraham, or Zoroaster, or Krishna. We've had, the Creator's never left alone without guidance. So I'd say, sister, we haven't yet had breakfast yet to see what this is all about. And to the Creators, I mean, shoot, I look up in the morning, I look at myself in the mirror, I said, how in the world did this happen? How did this happen? How did I get here? It goes that fast. Crowfoot said, the last thing I want to say, Crowfoot said this, he said, life's like the breath of a buffalo on a cold day, or a firefly on a warm summer night, or the shadows vanishing before the setting sun. That's life. So let's not leave the theater till the movie's over.
Well, speaking of
Thank
that, Erica Kay, beloved.
Charles, really quick, pardon the interruption. Brother John Perkins has mentioned that he has to leave us with another commitment. I was wondering if he might have a closing comment before he has to leave us.
Well, unfortunately, I've got to leave right now because I've got a call in 2 minutes, another call. I think my closing comment would be, I think in these meetings in the future, we ought to try to be a little bit more aware of time because people schedule time. I think this has been a wonderful, wonderful meeting, but I wish we'd had more opportunity to get down to more actions that we could take, frankly, the specific actions that we ask people to take, because that's where we've got to go. And to try to conduct the meeting like, we keep a commitment to time, because I'm sorry to have to leave and not be able to address things, but I scheduled something else, so I'm sorry. And Chief Phil, it's been wonderful. Tomas, great. John Cobb, it's always great to see you. Charles, you're fantastic at organizing this. Good to see you all. And let's do it again. Let's do it again. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you so much for today and for your obvious living the loving way through unconditional love. One of the things I've realized from a very early age is that somewhere along the line, the word love was hijacked. It became love with conditions. I love you if, I love you but. And that's why I've become so conscious in choosing the words very carefully when I use love. I preface it by talking and speaking about unconditional love, love without condition, without judgment, without condemnation. And forgetting all of the old lessons and lies that we were taught from very early on. The idea of sin and all these man-made creations that do not serve our highest good. And that's why it is a great honor to be in the company of those who have lived this life. And the only other thought that I had to add to that was, in order for me to fully understand discrimination and hate and condemnation, I had to experience these things on a life path. And through that, it built empathy and compassion and a real understanding of what I experienced in a near-death experience at 17, when I was in that presence. The only words I can find to describe it was a most perfect love. Because the only thing that we're all striving for is peace. And that's all that existed within that energy. And I call love an energy, living, breathing. Patricia Ann Davis used the word, the voice of God, the breath of God. Breathing, it breathes, it's alive. It is everywhere, always. And it's an energy from which, when we create from that energy, without any conceptions or prejudices, then we're creating towards the highest good of all concerned, with harm to none.
And you demonstrate that every time you show up. So thank you, Erica Kay. And I apologize to anyone who feels inconvenienced by time. Most of us are out of the Humanity Rising community, where a 1 hour meeting can last about 3 days. So you bring the lunch. So if you need to leave, we love you. unconditionally, even though you need to leave. But Tomas says he has another question.
Yes,
Chief Phil
please.
has a burning desire.
I
So
had,
that's
yeah, one more. I have a few more, but this one was I really wanted answered. From hearing how you're saying that the Indigenous are coming together with a lot of these meetings, I had, I guess, the reverse type of question, which was, what events in politics have kept Indigenous tribes from uniting for sovereignty? And how do these challenges vary among different tribes?
I believe our participation in the adversarial partisan political system. They have us divided up. So you have one side, you got Republicans over here, they promise one thing, and Democrats over here. I'm going to say the US, I think it's the same across the Americas. It's a divide and conquer. It's still very much an operation. And we use it too in our own communities now. We've learned it. And so I would say that we need to be able to focus on principles, not personalities. We need to withdraw from these systems and utilize systems that are not trying to tear human beings down instead of coming up with solutions that are principle centered. So I for myself, I do not involve myself in politics. And most of all the relatives in our movement do not involve ourselves in politics. I mean, you can either choose to get your energy hung up in a system that's collapsing and help it collapse. That's great. I mean, if you choose to do that, or build the new. And we're focused on building the new. That's where we're coming from. And I'm not saying by every way everybody's there, but it takes time, little by little. And then when people begin to see the results of your work and you begin to say, just a minute, in taking notice, you just kind of quietly humble about going. And then it comes a time when people say, oh, and it's been happening lately. And I've just I didn't even realize that along the way, just by going along the way, little by little, people like yourself, what a honor to meet you, Tomas. You can see, where are you? Are you from?
Oh no, I went to Cornell. I studied in this building, but I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in California.
Oh, you're in California. Okay. And now, Tomas, is that a Spanish name?
It is a Spanish name, yeah. My grandpa, he's Cuban.
Oh.
Yeah, he actually went to medical school in Mexico. It was the first medical school where you could study outside the United States and then practice in the US. And so while he was there, actually, for his practice, it's a part of the program and a part of the law for Mexico. He helped the Indigenous there and provided them like free medical services for several years.
Yes, yes.
And so did my grandma as well. My grandma was a nurse and she did that there. And so they both did that for 4 or 5 years, actually. And my dad was born there. My 2 uncles were born there, and so was my aunt.
And what's your area of study, and what inspired you to pursue what you're doing?
Oh no, so I studied the nuclear engineering. After, I graduated in 2017. There were no jobs in nuclear engineering because of Fukushima, actually. So I did consulting in New York for several years. And then I've moved into finance. And then, but I reached out to John Cobb because I've always wanted to reach out to him because he's written so much, but I was afraid to. And so then I reached out, and then it all started moving from there.
Well, that's a perfect segue into John Cobb. Dr. Cobb, any wisdom as we prepare Memorial Weekend?
Well, I'm delighted to be with people, many of whom are actually engaged directly in trying to make a difference. Excuse me. I think that we need people to be working at all levels. And I'm a theologian. That means that I'm supposed to help people think more clearly about what the world is like, what they are like, what their friends are like, and what can be done to improve relationships among them. These are issues that come in theology. They don't come only in theology, of course. They come in sociology, psychology. And the difference for me between theology and these other ways of looking at these issues is the sources that people draw on. And of course, as a theologian, one is especially interested in commitments, decisions, purposes, promises, and failures and disappointments, and how one responds to how people respond when they don't succeed, and what they seek to improve. There are issues, but I don't think theology has a definite set of boundaries. It's simply that some people began thinking about these things out of their religious experience and out of their disappointment with the world, their disappointment with each other, maybe their disappointment with God, whatever they thought was God. There are so many things, but it's a part of deep feeling, deep concern that's highly personal, individual, but at the same time relevant to others. If it's just relevant to yourself, it's not something that you can share. That doesn't mean it's not important for you, but it's not going to be called theology. You're not going to have a course about it. I've appreciated what everybody has said. I don't think any one of us wastes our time. I think we are all asking questions, the answers to which are obscure and difficult, but also can be continuously clarified. And clarifying is worth it. For some people, I think it helps to get past that hatred that is such a block. Hatred damages the hater. Often, that one who is hated doesn't care much. You're not doing the one you hate harm.
Very true.
You may be. I mean, that's possible. But and I think it was interesting to me that it was only relatively recently that I realized that Jesus is unique, is lifting up and specifying the love of enemy as the heart of his message. And I think it's, I mean, you don't have to get it from Jesus. I mean, you don't have to be a Christian in order to understand the truth of that. But if we cannot, right now, the United States is so committed still to bossing everybody else that the goal of any political leader and what will be held up in the election, all that, will be how we make sure that no one can challenge our domination and leadership. And that is a goal that inherently and necessarily keeps us uncertain, unsure, anxious. If we could really have as our goal the expression of love for our enemies, we're more likely to make real changes, to evoke something that is helpful. But it's very hard. And I think Charles is extraordinary in the set of contacts he has developed over the years and the confidence people have. So far as I can tell, everybody trusts him. I don't think any of us are holding back on what we want to say, because maybe Charles is going to tell somebody. That would be too much trouble. And so he is able to give leadership. to us and for us that all of us respect and appreciate, and that really does help us all feel that we are we together, and that the success of any one of you, for me, is my success as well. And maybe my clarification of some philosophical, metaphysical, Whiteheadian issue is helpful to some of you, and is a gain for you as well as for me. And I do hope we do have a strong feeling of we, and that we can work together in the future. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Dr. Cobb, and thank you each and every one for showing up and being here. We're abundantly blessed to have abundantly blessed Jane Young with us. And this event just came about in divine order over the last few days. I feel we need to share a special appreciation to Chief Phil for making this time available, and to John Raymer, who's always double booked being a service to the 8 billion brothers and sisters, and has a birthday coming up Sunday, and he's going to be hanging out with Jacob Collier. And if you don't know about Jacob, you will if you hang around John Raymer for very long. They're all of you extraordinary. This is a rich blessed beginning. If you're part of One World yet, do consider joining us, because it is the communities that Cobb is called for, is how John Raymer describes it, as a beloved community, and it truly is. Blessings, one and all. Go forth and
Prosper.
So,
insert.
Charles, I dropped in the chat the link to understanding the nature of Wetiko or Wetiko. This has given me some real hope to recognize we're all trapped in this spell. We're born into a narrative that divides us, a psychosis of the spirit, this insatiable greed. We can never get enough. The book Columbus and Other Cannibals by Jack Forbes referenced this in the 70s, identifying when the Cree people realized there was a different way of being. And now we're all in that boat. There's nobody who's escaped that. It's the thinking that, no, it's not me, that gets us actually reaffirming this way and keeping us blame shifting. There is no healing in blaming. And if we come together and unite humanity to restore Mother Earth, seems like a really resonant message that so many people are resonating with. Let's keep it simple right now, especially in this age of AI where everyone can create 10 times more than they could create. We need to keep the signal to noise ratio clear and unite to change what we have, turn what we have into what we need. So thank you for doing this, Charles. Thank you, John Cobb. You're a hero to so many. Nice to meet you, Tomas. We need your voice here, and lean on us. Thank you, Brother Phil. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
I got Harry and his wife down the street. They're coming. I'm cooking dinner for them. So
Great, they're here.
I know they're in.
And that's
Wonderful. What
and that's
Tomas, I put my, by the way, anybody else too, I put my US cell in there. You can text me. Then I can give you my email. So remember, I always, you realize your time in this physical world of time and space is getting short. You want to be sure you pass on as much as you can to those eager, young minds that are going to take it way further than you. So please text me on that number, text me your email, and I'll begin sharing some things that you might I think will find of interest.
Thank you.
thank you, brother. Grace Denise, I said no, but I can't. What would you like?
Sorry, my delay. I'm so sorry. So I probably have too much to say. I don't want to take too much time because we're about to close. I just want to say, thinking a lot about what's deeply universal, the deepest values that unite all of us, our deepest humanity, that life tender spark that's the tender life spark that's in all of us, and that we really are interconnected in profound ways. And I worry that there's a movement. I don't want to alarm people, but we have a movement that is to break systems to allow for totalitarianism, which is one way to take over the world, like unify our world. There's another way, which is the vision of everybody kind of retreating into their separate corners. I'm not sure how that can work. I'm wondering about that. I've been thinking about that. But I would like to see a movement for us to unify behind what is greatest in us, what is best in us. What is it that lifts us up to our highest potential, morally, ethically? Realizing peace is about ethics and fairness, but also our humanity. And totalitarians invite fairness. They say, oh, we can use AI and make equality, but I think they can reduce what is human, what is tender, what is special, what is creative, what is imaginative, thoughtful, sensitive. And so I want to challenge all of us in our own ways and together, how we can create a movement of consciousness, maybe on YouTube, speaking out in different ways, to stand for how we can build a world together that's fair, that's cooperative, that's uplifting, that honors the sacred in us, and also brings out fairness through generosity and cooperation. Encouraging the very rich to. I feel that all avarice, all greed, whether for power or riches or excess, is from woundedness. And so the transformational community that is all about healing can bring such an important message, not about making millions, but about healing us so there is no more excess. There is no more corruption because it comes from woundedness. So does war and genocide. All of that comes from fear and insecurity and trauma.
Okay, thank you. I certainly agree. And if you're not in touch with Tandaica, you definitely want
Feeling
to.
about fairness, cooperation, or tenderness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom peace. We can send love out to the world because that's all love is. Is the world is love. And we say Zoom peace. So that's how we go. Adios.
See you, Kurt.
We
Thank
be peace. We are
See you, Kurt.
peace. We share peace. We shower peace. We love love. And the Love Foundation is all about unconditional love.
And what is universal?
And a most perfect love.
Beautiful.
Goodbye. Bye.
Okay.
Enjoy your breakfast, Chief Hill.
Okay. My wife always cooks well, so I get a little saliva going down my face. I
know.
Sitting there for quite a while, so I had to kind of sneak over and get a little bite.
I know. We love you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Enjoy.
Okay.
Bye,
Let's
all.
go. See you, David. Okay. Bye-bye.
Great session, Charles. Thank you, Brother
Thank you,
Phil.
Shonda. Thank you for you. You are awesome.